We are not going to gut this law. We will fix what needs to be fixed, but we're going to make the Affordable Care Act work, and those who say they are opposed to it and can't offer a solution will push back.
President Obama, so what about solutions? We're back with the panel. Okay, Tucker, what happens? What do you do?
Well, the first thing you do is a philosophical point. You acknowledge that all progress is incremental, that comprehensive solutions to anything never work. Obamacare was never going to work simply because of its size, its scope, its ambition was just grotesque. So you repeal Obamacare and you fix health care piecemeal. A lot of things you can do. You can allow the sale of health care plans across state lines. Thanks to lobbyists, that's now illegal, so the states have a captive audience. And it limits competition and drives prices up. Then you can eliminate all health insurance mandates, again, the product of lobbyists. That's why we have them. Allow people to buy the plan that best suits their needs. Tort reform, obviously. And then finally, the tax code ought to treat all health insurance plans equally. There is no justifiable reason for employer-provided plans to be taxed at a different and lower rate from individual plans. That's not justified by any kind of rational argument.
So that does upend the system, and the 80% who get their health care now from their companies, it would affect directly.
Oh, of course it would. I mean, of course it would. But but the current system is unjustifiable. Look, you can't have a system where costs are completely hidden from consumers. People have no idea what healthcare services cost.
Sure, in the ideal, but in the political environment and what Republicans are facing, is that
Well, that's why you do it piecemeal. That's why anytime a politician looks right into the camera and says, I'm going to fix all your problems with one stroke of a pen, this bill will save your life, he is lying. And by the way, he's also had a totally inflated sense of his own power. That's not how it works. Do it bit by bit.
Stop talking. Stop talking, because, I mean, you are damaging your reputation with your fellow conservatives. Because what you just laid out is the most radical plan I ever heard of. You're going to go after...
Not yet. You haven't got to the judge. You haven't got to the judge.
Well, lots of my ideas are radical, I think.
Well, all right,
thank you for noticing.
Well, I noticed. Okay, so, here I am, and I just have some simple ideas.
Okay.
I feel sort of, ashamed at this point.
Well, we still have a graphic for you.
Well, I think we should fix the website. Make sure it works, so that people who are interested in getting health care through the websites can get it. Number two, I think that you've got to deal with the insurance companies, which the president was doing today with the commissioners. I think you've got to make sure that when you talk about allowing people, for example, to keep these canceled plans, that it doesn't cost the health insurance companies then to turn into enemies of health care reform and lose money.
Include more subsidies?
It's potentially, but you know what it really includes is allowing them then to structure it in such a way, structure the cost in such a way that it doesn't lose money. And then the final thing is, and I think this is really important, the president touched on this yesterday, Bret, when he was talking at the Wall Street Journal Forum. They're going to rebrand and re-roll out Obamacare at some point because he says the political opposition is so large. What he's got to do is rebuild trust. We see this in the polls that indicate there's been a tremendous drop in trust of President Obama and confidence in this health care system. So he's got to do a big job of rebuilding that trust.
Okay, lay it on him, Judge.
Juan, fasten your seatbelt.
Yes, sir.
The federal government should stay within the confines of the Constitution. The Constitution does not authorize the federal government to have anything whatsoever to do with health care. So Obamacare should be abolished, along with Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, but the people who are on those programs should be grandfathered in because they paid money to be in there and they've ordered their lives to stay there. The states should regulate health care because the states retained that power under the Constitution. So if you if you want mandatory health care, go live in Massachusetts. If you want the free market and you want individual savings accounts, financial money savings accounts, go live in Texas. As Uncle Ronnie used to say, you can vote with your feet. When the government attempts to do what only the free market can do, when the government says everybody's got to drive a Mercedes, whether you can afford one or not, whether you want to drive one or not, very few people will have cars, and everybody will be walking. My friend,
let me just quickly ask, you mean to say that you want to do away with Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid?
Absolutely, because the Constitution doesn't authorize it. It would be far better administered by the states and by private enterprise.
Did you hear what Bret Baier said about the politics? You think that you can do away with Social Security and Medicare in this country?
I don't think it could be done with a stroke of a pen, and I don't think there's a consensus for it. But in my world, where the government lives within the confines of the Constitution, people are responsible for themselves. Wow. It's not the Beltway world where you live. People don't look to the federal government to take care of them.
I think the voters would go crazy. The two of you have abandoned the whole notion of conservatism tonight.
You have abandoned the notion that the Constitution means what it says.
Okay.
We'll have more of this in the online show.